Well, this is it. We have one thing to do now. Let's see what Alora has to say.
Spyro. Now that you've got the orbs, Ripto's demise is only moments away, right? Right? Well, anyway, good luck. He's right through this door.
Thanks, Alora. I'm gonna need it. This guy will most likely pack a punch. Let's see what he's up to.
Yeah. Yeah! Come back here, you useless animals!
Hey, Shorty, maybe I can help.
What? You again?
Yup. If you want to test that power crystal, why don't you try it on me? I'll stand still, I promise.
I like that idea. Dragon, you've just sealed your fate.
Oh man, I don't like the sound of that.
You don't like the sound of that? It's freaking Reignited Ripto! Like,
What?
God Lord, do you not know how long that took me to beat him the first time? First I had to go through the first phase, which also included a buggy hunter that would not always throw the orbs, and I had to use all 3 orbs in order to get at the freaking achievement while doing the Ripto battle, and I basically had to dodge Ripto's attacks while trying to get the freaking orbs before him. Then during phase 2, I had to basically do part of the golf strategy of running around in small circles in order to dodge some of Ripto's attacks, while also trying to get at the right time on the orbs, but let him take some of the orbs, so I have to dodge some of his attacks, because if I get too close in front of him, he'll either try to attack or crush me, basically. So basically, that was the longer part, but then the longest part has to be the final round, because I have to figure out the whole strategy, and there's apparently a partial strategy to it, but it's mostly luck-based. Basically, you gotta try to fly around, make sure you go completely downwards and back up whenever he shoots a flame ball, otherwise you're not gonna be gonna dodge it at all, and you just gotta keep spamming the fire attack as you do the whole freaking battle in order to get anywhere while aiming for him. And it's very hard to shoot him when he goes behind the freaking castle itself, and so you gotta wait until he comes about and then shoot him as he's about to come, so then he runs right into the flames, and you gotta keep doing this all until it actually works, but it's still a pain to control the flight pattern, so you're gonna get hit either way.
Okay, you can get off your soapbox now. But, for the record...
4 hours with nearly 500 tries.
Yeesh. So...
4 hours.
Now it's probably me, but I actually did that in last time, but for the record, you did give me some advice. But
I was doing this battle again in order to teach it as I went to try to figure out the strategy along the way.
true.
So yeah, so a total of 8 hours on this boss battle, just to complete it twice without getting hit once each time. So it's nearly 1,000 tries right there.
So with that in mind, one could argue that I might have more skills than you in some regards, but if that were the case, then it should have taken me at least 2 hours, at least half the time it took you to do it your first time, and it took me like only 1. That's still a long time, but still.
And I'm a Spyro veteran.
That is, yeah, you know it's hard when even that's happening. Which is funny because you said back in Skelos Badlands that the Lizard Quest was easier.
Yeah, which kind of annoyed me because I do like a challenge course, but sometimes too much challenge can be a little too much on me sometimes.
Then you might want to stay away from games like Super Monkey Ball. Or at least...
Oh, I've played harder, tried Cuphead. Can't even get past the first boss or the first level right now.
Oh. Well, basically in the and especially in the later difficulties, Expert and Master of the first 2 Super Monkey Ball games, it can get brutal. You'll have to see for yourself. In fact, when I do a live stream of a 4-player Super Monkey Ball session, I might have you tag along as one of the 4 players, so you could essentially experience it for yourself.
Wait, how do I play monkey ball with you, exactly?
Well, they don't have any online, but if we do manage to end up meeting in person and I have 3 other friends to do it with, that could work. Also, I love
guess
this.
that's fair.
I also love this little blue orb thing. And if you manage to get 3 blue orbs along with Ripto, you can basically go just as fast as him. But yeah, the first phase...
It's basically the speed power-up. The red ones equal the fire power-up, but the green ones are a new one that's exclusive to this battle. But they're a pain in the butt just to control and aim. They're short-ranged bombs, basically, that you spit out of your mouth. And you gotta get close enough to him in order for it to hit, but you gotta predict his path so then you can place it in front of him so then the blast radius hits him. So the splash damage has to be the part you aim for hitting him with, and not so much the actual bomb.
And since the robotic gulp, which I'm fighting right now, is bigger, that would mean that it would be much easier to hit those green grenades. Also,
It would
there's...
just be easier to hit Robo Gulp with everything, basically. Just be careful of the attacks they make. But I do recommend using one of their attacks against them, specifically the fire one, because it's a homing missile kind of deal. But if you go around them and then straight in front of them, before it goes around, it'll go straight for them and hit them instead. Which is quite funny, but it also at least helps progress the battle without actually doing anything.
Yeah, it's pretty clever. And the first phase really isn't any trouble at all. You just avoid Ripto's attacks, you'll keep him from getting the orbs, fire as many fireballs and ram his horn into his butt as many times as possible and you're golden.
Though Hunter can be annoying with this bug that's only in the Reignited trilogy, where he will sometimes throw with his hand, but nothing comes. Like he basically throws nothing. It's like he's trying to trick. It's like when you trick your dog into thinking you threw the ball.
Well, it is a clever fake. You have to throw Ripto off, but it can also inadvertently hinder you. But hey, at least it gives you more
I
time
think
to
it's just a bug with the Reignited trilogy, because this is not in the original trilogy. I can assure you that. I've played Ripto's fight in the original trilogy enough times to know that he will always drop an orb. It doesn't matter. He will always drop an orb. He will never throw nothing. So this was really ticking me off every time it happened with reset I had to do on this fight in Reignited trilogy. I am not kidding. This was the most frustrating part of the fight, was when Hunter would literally throw nothing. I hope they fix this bug soon, because it really ticks me off.
Oh. Alright then, so here's Ripto's attacks in the first phase. If he gets 3 and basically, you have to get 3 orbs of one specific color in order to do an attack. But the twist here is that if you get orb of one color, but get an orb of another color, the orb you got earlier will change to that color. So like, I have 2 green orbs right now. If I were to get a blue or a red orb, the other 2 orbs would become red or blue, depending on which one I got. And by using all 3 of the power-ups, I would get a trophy called RGB, which essentially stands for red, green, and blue. Pretty obvious, right?
Yeah.
I can't help but feel like that's a
Obviously-
reference to something.
Obviously, it's a reference to the original console because it ran on RCA cables, aka the red, blue, and yellow cords. But it's also a reference to how televisions work when they use red, blue, and green pixels.
Interesting. So the second phase is definitely hard.
Sorry, red, white, and yellow cords, but it's referencing more to the pixels of the TV where it's red, green, and blue. You would think they would use the 3 primary colors, red, blue, and yellow, but that's the primary colors of paint. There's a difference, apparently. I learned this in school years ago. You see, colors of light is slightly different because instead of yellow, it's green. It's also kind of how our eyes work. So it's quite a few references to a lot of scientific crap. So yeah, our eyes see light for color. That's how color works, basically. We see it through light sources. So when it bounces off of certain parts of our eyes more, that's what we see that as. So say if it's green, it'll bounce more off the green.
Yeah, so as for Ripto's attacks, if he gets if his 3 orbs are red, he'll basically do Crush's blue attack. Shockwave's on the ground and you just have to jump over it. Nothing more. For his blue attack, blue Sonic Shield flows around him and it gets faster. For his green attack...
This is easy to avoid and you can basically outrun him.
And for his green attack, he essentially does what Gulp does if you... when he eats... I think it's a bomb or... I don't know which one of the 3 blows. But he basically shoots a bunch of big fireballs. And you have to get in between them to dodge.
Oh wait, is he spinning around while he's doing this? And making a big creepy face? That's disturbing.
Oh yeah. Oh, and I found an interesting way to keep Ripto from getting orbs. If you actually charge into him, you won't damage him, but he can't damage you either. You basically stun him for a brief period of time.
Yeah, he basically has a pain state, if you will. Basically, you can use this to your advantage sometimes, but I don't recommend going overboard because, well, he will turn around quickly to attack, of course. So you best run as soon as you hit him, basically. And you best make a good sharp turn so that his fireball cannot hit. And you gotta make sure you're a good distance away in order for that to work because, well, at close range, you can easily still get hit.
And it's pretty easy to avoid his normal attacks where he just fires a simple laser beam out of his scepter. He basically doesn't really predict where you're going. He just uses it in the direction that he's facing you with at the time. So it's pretty easy to avoid. But the second phase is a completely different story. As you saw earlier, he brings back a robotic version of Gulp, who, if you remember, got his face blown up numerous times. So, basically, when that happens, he becomes much smarter with his scepter attacks. He's like Gruntilda from Banjo-Kazooie when she's throwing her meteor. The AI is smart enough to do it in estimated directions in which the player is about to go next. And the twist here is the fact that normally I would do something like circle strafing, basically charge in a circle to avoid the attack, but that doesn't work for me in this case, so later in the video, I had to use the ninja roll in order to dodge it.
I tried to use the ninja roll, I couldn't get the hang of it, probably because, well, yeah, because it was only in the original first game when the original trilogy came out, that kind of made it hard to practice, of course. And it's a good thing it's in the Reignited trilogy so I can practice, but then that means I'm going to have to try to make sure I forget that whenever I play the original trilogy, of course. Which I'm still going to check the digital store to see if the Spyro 3 digital copy is the greatest hits version where the soundtrack is complete. And I do a gameplay of it, of course, if it is. I will try to finish Reignited first and then save the best for last, which would be the original trilogy. They have the entire trilogy, nice about $5.99 each on the PlayStation Store. You can play it automatically on your PSP, PS Vita, or your PS3, but if you want to play it on your PS4, you gotta have both PlayStation Network Plus as well as the PlayStation Now subscription. The PlayStation Now subscription is the only way you can play older console games on your PS4, but when it comes to the PlayStation's network, it's kind of required in order to actually work the PlayStation Now, so you kind of need 2 subscriptions, but they're both approximately the same price, so you can probably afford the monthly fee if you have to.
Yeah, and in this phase, I gained true appreciation for the ninja roll. If it weren't for that, I don't know if I ever would have been able to ace this guy. It probably could have taken me like days to do it. Okay, maybe not days, but at least 12 hours. If it weren't for the ninja roll. Or...
Ninja roll can be a little handy at times, but you gotta know when to use it, of course, because sometimes it doesn't work. You gotta time it right, and sometimes it doesn't work in certain scenarios, period. But some scenarios it'll work a lot. And I recommend mainly for attacks that go straight. That way it's easy to dodge, but when there's a curve attack, or some kind of roundish attack, you might want to just simply run. That's it.
Yeah, and stuff like Ripto's scepter attack when he's not on gulp, you can just charge around. He's not going to predict where you're gonna go next. He acts kind of incompetent in the first phase. Then
he probably predicts when he's on Robogulp because, well, he's higher up. He can probably see all different directions you could possibly go.
Insert I have the high ground gag here.
It's over, Spyro! I have the high ground!
You underestimate my power!
Don't try it! I feel like I could have done that better. Can we try that again?
Sure, why not? We haven't like 40 minutes left. Rito!
Okay.
Take two.
It's over, Spyro! I have the high ground!
You underestimate my power!
Don't try it, Dragon!
Pretty satisfied with that?
I think I sounded pretty close to Reignited Ripto. He just sounds more angry in the Reignited trilogy, I'll tell you that right now, so he's quite fun to voice. Seriously, I bet the voice actor of him had more fun playing him in Reignited trilogy than he did in the original trilogy.
Yeah, he did a pretty good job selling the character. And plus his design is really great. None of that enter the dragonfly shtick. He looks like a legitimate threat. Even though he wasn't really fleshed out. Yeah, that's something I brought up. I've always thought about. In Spyro 1, Nasty Nork is mentioned quite a few times whenever you rescue a dragon. But here, the only time Ripto is ever mentioned is by Laura, Hunter, or even Moneybags.
Well, yeah, that little... I don't know how to insult him without sounding vulgar on your channel, basically. I really don't want to give you any kind of PG ratings right now. I don't know how to insult him.
Maybe call him a land incarnation of Mr. Krabs or something?
That could work, or I could just go the route that Bentley the Yeti did in Spyro 3. You duplicitous, licitous, ursidous fly.
That sounds hilarious.
I don't even know what it means, because it's basically British talk. Unfortunately, I'm not from Britain. I would have to ask our British friend that question, but I'm afraid to. I really don't want to offend them, that's for sure. Not that they're bad. I'm just too afraid to offend some people of other, like, you know, nationalities and, you know, other kinds of races. I'm just afraid to talk to them about those things, even if it's in a nice manner. You know, I'm just afraid of offending them. I really enjoy having friends that are of different nationalities and races. It's like having a nice, peaceful world, you know.
Yeah, that, and I don't mean to rant about any stuff like that, but the fact that people are afraid to say, hey, talk about certain things with their friends for fear of offending them is kind of shows you the problem in today's society. People are so oversensitive to everything that they're willing to call the cops the second that they're offended. I've seen
Actually, no, it's not the case for me here. I'm just completely shy and nervous and just easily worried. I just worry too much. Like, they're pretty trustworthy friends, I'll tell you that right now, and they don't mind, but I just worry too much. But yes, you are right in some cases. I know my actual life is like that, trust me.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if how you were treated in your home is kind of why you act like that. But
It's not often, but thankfully, but I try to be careful, really. That way it doesn't happen.
But if it helps, maybe I could ask. Wait, doesn't the Spyro Reignited trilogy have subtitles?
Yeah.
I just thought of something. When
I turned them on as soon as I started my gameplay. Every YouTuber does that. That's rule number 1 when recording a gameplay, always turn on the subtitles. That way, in case you talk over certain sections, the fans can still know what the heck the game is talking about, if they've never seen the game before.
Right. So, then I had an idea. I could look at the subtitles of what Bentley's saying, and put it into Google or Bing or something. Then
I don't know if they have a translation for British. You'd have to look up a British translation or something like that kind of site.
Or if you prefer, I can ask him what it means.
No. It's fine. I can talk to them about it. It's no problem.
I wasn't being serious about that, for the record. I was mostly making a joke.
No,
But-
well, I can look up a translator thingy.
Right,
For the
but like,
best.
there's also dictionaries that could potentially bring up stuff like that.
This is probably why whenever they make a British kids film and they bring it to America, they most of the time have to translate. Unless it's easy to follow, basically. Like for example, Walls and Gromit, they didn't really translate anything, so you still have some British wording in there, but it's mostly easy stuff to follow, basically, so kids can still watch it and understand. But when it came to stuff like Flushed Away, for example, or even Dougal, they had to change it, of course, because there was a lot of it, so kids would not understand it in America as they would in Britain. Now, that Dougal's a completely other topic, and even Butch Hartman's kind of hating what happened, because it's not his fault. You see, when he was hired on to translate some of the jokes, it makes some jokes for American audiences, because, well, you know, Butch Hartman makes family, like, he basically makes the family favorite shows, such as Tough Puppy, Elliot Parents, Danny Phantom, Bunsen is a Beast. Yeah, so basically he's great with humor, trust me, even has his own YouTube channel, and that gets some good laughs out of him too. Seriously, he's got some great ones in there, trust me, you gotta watch him. But anyways,
Yeah, and he even
Butch
draws
Hartman
some
was hired to
characters
make
into
some
Fairly
English
Oddparents
jokes.
style.
But then, what happened was, the studio behind the American translation of Dougal did not use any of those jokes, and they just replaced it all with Poop Park jokes, the lowest form of comedy. So the movie was quite a bomb in America. So now I want to look into buying a British version of the movie, so that I got a good version at least, you know? Oh, and now Flushed Away was a different tale though, because it actually didn't do bad with its translation, and they actually only had one poop joke, which wasn't even poop at all, and it's hilarious as frick. The only poop joke I'll laugh at, for crying out loud, and I'm telling you this as an honest person here. Because what it is Rodney's getting flushed down the toilet in one scene, if you remember from the trailer. There's a part in the movie, in that scene particularly, where he grabs something long and brown. He feels it for a second, and he's worried, and then he freaks out, drops it, but then it floats up, shows the wrapper part, and it's like, oh, it's a chocolate bar.
That was actually pretty clever.
Yeah, that is actually good. That's a good way to do a poop joke without poop. Seriously, whoever wrote that joke, I want to pay them I just want to give them a nice treat. I want to take them out for dinner kind of thing, you know? Just give them a nice dinner as a reward for that joke. They deserve it, whoever wrote that joke. Now, of course, they did cut out a lot of British humor that was in the film, so you don't hear Hugh Jackman in his British accent. So he's basically between his British accent and that he normally is, as well, and in between also his Wolverine, basically. So he's kind of a cross between the two in this film when it comes to the American version. But I do like Flushed Away. It's a good film. It was kind of underrated though, because I'm probably guessing people saw the idea of Flushed Away, you're in the sewers, flushed down the toilet. Probably a lot of poop and fart passes off for that, but they proved them wrong. They proved the audience wrong. Not a lot. There was like only one poop poop joke, and then that was it. And it wasn't even poop. Do I have to keep repeating myself that it wasn't poop?
I'm sure we get.
But I do want to look into a British copy and see what that's like.
Yeah, so anyway, we are now in the final phase of this fight. And, spoiler alert, I take damage towards the end, so... Oh wait, I took damage just now!
Oh
But-
man, you gotta start this over.
Yeah, that's a bit of a bummer. But when it's one of those fights where if you die at any point in the struggle, you need to do it all over again. Now it's probably
That's
easy
kind
to
of how
do.
that's kind of how the skill point works. You cannot take damage at any point. It doesn't matter what point it is. You cannot take big damage until after the fight.
Though it does make me wonder, how would the skill point have played out if the game started you off from the phase you died on? Like, if you took no damage in the first phase, but got damaged in the second, and died in the second, what would have happened would they still given you the skill point if you if they start you off on the second phase, and you managed to ace it that time? But I do wonder about that sometimes. And in a sense, another game that does something like this are the Pokemon games. Basically, they've done it since the first generation. You have to fight 5 trainers in one perfect run. Well, not necessarily perfect, since you do get to stock up on healing items before the battles, but if you lose to any of the Elite Four members, or even the champion, you need to start over from square one. Thankfully, you can use some of the prize money you won to get more healing items, but that probably won't help much. But there's one saving grace that the game does have, is its save feature. You can save between Elite Four battles, so you don't have to start from square one. This game doesn't have that lineage. Neither does the Gruntilda fight from Banjo-Kazooie, which also uses multiple phases.
Also, just for you Spyro fans, the next time you play Spyro 4 enter the freaking goddamn dragonfly, sorry, it ticks me off saying that name. Next time you play that and you see the opening bit where Ripto comes in, just remember this fight when you complete it, of course. That'll tick you off even more. Trust me, we do not talk about Enter the Dragonfly, especially since it completely ignores this continuity.
Though it's rumored that Enter the Dragonfly was originally going to have something to do with that quote-unquote Spyro problem thing mentioned in a supposed epilogue in
the original trilogy. Yeah, that's the sad part. The remake so far, I've done everything in order to see if there was any sort of epilogue pages in Spyro 2 and 3 Reignited versions. They got rid of them, sadly. Which kind of sucked. It's as bad as with them getting rid of the cool, awesome flying through levels, those credits sequence, and replacing it with just the concept art. I would have been fine if they still did that kind of original thing and just put concept art on the sides here and there while they're flying through the levels. It would have been nice. It would have been fine. It would have been great. It would have actually been better with that concept art included, of course, and see the Reignited levels just like we did with the originals. Nope, we had to have normal credits. I get it was longer, and what they could have done is this, just include more levels than the actual credits. You could have gone through the entire freaking list of levels for each game, like everything, including the battle arenas. You could have done that.
And maybe replay some of the cutscenes, like what games like Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic 06, Sonic Heroes. Yeah, those games, if you run out of levels to fly through. And wait, which game mentions the whole Spyro problem thing?
That would be the third game.
Oh. Well, if the Enter the Dragonfly actually followed that plot, it probably would have made more sense.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Enter the Dragonfly was rushed.
And if they
That's a story for another day, though, and I will explain it in a video. Just to tell you guys the horrible, horrible story of the development of Spyro Enter the Dragonfly.
And if Activision or Toys for Bob actually does remake Enter the Dragonfly, they better make it decent, and they better follow the script of the whole Spyro problem. Or heck, they could
Or better yet, do what Crash is doing. Make a whole new Spyro 4 and get rid of the rest of the franchise, basically.
Oh, of course! About Time is coming in October.
Yeah, although it has the same subtitle as Plants vs. Zombies 2, it's about time.
But
only because both are about time travel.
And it's also a double entendre because we haven't had an original Crash platformer game that follows the original trilogy in like years. So it's a bit of a joke title too.
I will say this, Wrath of Cortex was not a bad Spyro 4, it wasn't that bad, I actually kinda enjoyed it.
Don't you mean
though there
Crash
were some
4?
parts I did hate. Specifically the freaking water levels with the freaking submarine!
Did Crash, was that the only game where Crash was actually in submarines, or was that in the original trilogy too?
Well, he wasn't in a submarine per se in the original trilogy. He was in some kind of water vehicle, but I wouldn't say it was a submarine. But trust me, you don't want to play the submarine levels at the Cortex. Especially when trying to do the relic times. Oh my god, those are the worst. I didn't want, this was the only Crash game I was not going to get the relics for, and just used the cheat code, unlocked all the relics, just to get the final cutscene.
And if Activision remakes Wrath of Cortex, they will probably fix that easily. And plus,
they didn't make, they actually butchered one of the best relic things in Crash 3, technically speaking, when it came to the Insane Trilogy. The secret Hakoko level. They ruined the jetpack control, the jet ski controls. The jet ski controls are now too realistic and too stiff and sloppy. Whereas with the original trilogy, you could actually go freaking nuts if you wanted to and still complete the thing without getting a scratch on you. But with the realistic controls now, this is the most freaking, this is the most frustrating level in the entire game. Oh god, pardon me. It's like most frustrating level in the entire game, especially just to relic time. And if you want that platinum relic, good god dang luck. You'll need God's help on your side. That's how difficult it is. It is the most frustrating thing, especially when you gotta be straight at the dang arrow just to be able to get through anywhere. Otherwise, you're gonna hit the nitro crate. Even if you're just barely off the hitbox, you're still gonna blow it up. It doesn't matter if you hit it or not. And the bombs are so close to each other. And with that stiff and overreactive and tight turns on the freaking and then jet ski, it's not gonna help you get through some of the tightest things and get some of the crates. Hey, whereas with the original game, you could actually go nuts if you wanted to and go freaking flying, but in control at the same time. You can actually control your turns while staying at high speeds and jump as straight as an arrow without even trying. Whereas with the remake, you've got to freaking be straight as an arrow, and it's a pain in the butt just to do that. If you want a bigger rant about this, I suggest go to Kid Chris's review.
So what you're saying is, because of how they butchered the jet ski controls in the Insane Trilogy, you're not confident that they'll improve the submarine controls if they do happen to remake Wrath of Cortex?
If anything, that might make it worse.
That's kind of what I meant when I asked that.
Yeah. I pretty much don't have confidence if they are to remake Wrath of Cortex. Crash 5 was to insanity, of course. We all know that. Also, I was actually shocked to find out, as one of the unlockable characters in Crash as Team Racing Nitro Fuel, you can get the boss known as Abomination, was it, or something like that?
Mega Mix.
Megamix, yeah, which only ever appeared as the final battle in Crash,
Huge
the
Adventure.
Great Adventure, or if you were in Britain, Crash XS, aka Crash Extra Small, or if you're like Kid Icarus, Crash Bandicoot Xylophone Saxophone.
That was brilliant. And his
I love his funny title sequence with Crash Bandicoot, trust me.
I know. And the funny thing is, with Mega Mix, it's not an actual battle, it's more of a chase sequence.
Yeah.
Basically...
So yeah, we only ever got to see Mega Mix as a pixelated monstrosity. Thank God, it was goddamn terrifying.
And it looks even more terrifying in its HD graphics. Like...
Oh, the freaking 3D model, I never thought I'd see it in 3D. Let's just hope nobody gets nightmares.
I didn't, but I'm sure someone did. But I gotta say, it's very well done. Props to them.
Yeah, it was actually good. Actually, I can't believe they actually reimagined and actually pretty much got the original idea spot on. I don't know if they were following concept art that was probably less pixely than the actual sprite, or if they tried to follow the sprite and tried to imagine how it would look as a 3D model. I don't know what their plan was when they made the 3D model version, but whatever they did, they pretty much made it spot on, I say. And he's probably gonna haunt nightmares again.
Yeah. And you know, now that I think about it, giving Crash Bandicoot Crash Bandicoot 4 years after the original trilogy, this isn't necessarily a new concept. Because if you remember, Sonic did something similar and was originally going to have 3 episodes, but because of a bad reception from classic obsessivists, they were forced to cancel the 3rd episode. Which is a real bummer, but I don't necessarily blame Sega for that. I blame the people that hated the games for irrational reasons.
It's like the National Dexters of Pokemon. They nearly murdered fucking Game Freak because they wouldn't get all the Pokemon. I'll admit, I do want the National Dex and be able to catch them all, but if you actually count how many Pokemon there are, and that includes shiny versions of everything, including the costume Pokemon, specific different Pokemon like the Burmese and the freaking Meowsticks and Nidorans, as well as all the costume Pokemon, and Spiky-eared Pichu, and any other kind of specific kinds of Pokemon out there, as well as all shiny versions, including shiny locks, you're gonna get a total of 3,000 Pokemon, basically. So, in other words, I would have been willing to wait. I want the National Dex, but I want to wait. Let them take their time, add it over time, bit by bit. Whatever the freaking work state is that's gonna kill them is not a good idea, because then, how are we gonna get more Pokemon games?
Yeah, and even then, and
part of my language said that last part, I didn't mean to do that, but seriously, the National Dexters pretty much ticked me off.
Yeah, and even then, we're up to like almost 900 Pokemon, so even getting the regular versions, not shiny, not paying attention to alternate forms, it'll still be very time consuming. And plus, they're adding, Game Freak is doing DL's clever idea with the Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra packs, which is a very clever idea. Yeah, and I wonder how the lack of a National Dex and the lack of an ability to get Pokemon into a game outside of its regional Dex will affect games like Diamond and Pearl. Because if you remember, those games had a National Dex, and...
No, it was easier back with the other games because there wasn't as many Pokemon as there is now. And they also took their time, forced to rush.
True. And I'd imagine, and the reason why they didn't include all the Pokemon was because they were forced to rush. But even in spite of the game...
And even the fans were threatening to complain about a freaking tree.
So, anyway, we're at the third phase again. No, second. Hopefully this time, I actually make it. So,
yeah.
We got cut off. What were you gonna say again?
I was talking about how National Dexters were actually threatening Game Freak that if they don't add the National Dex, they will complain more about a freaking one tree model being a low polygon than the rest of the 1,000 trees in the entire game. Just to basically bring down Game Freak and the franchise cancel it or some crap. And I'm just sitting there thinking, it's a freaking tree! There's thousands of trees in the goddamn game! And only one of them is low polygon. They can fix it at any time! You got thousands of trees to look at that look prettier. Go look at them if you're gonna complain. Don't complain about one tree. If there was like half the trees being low polygon, then I could probably understand the complaint. But it's still kind of silly just to threaten them with that complaint just to freaking cancel the freaking franchise if it's not gonna do what you ask. I'm just sitting there thinking one tree is bullcrap to complain about. You know what? I've seen trees with worse quality than that. So I don't give a crap whether the tree is low polygon or not. There's thousands of other trees to look at that are more beautiful.
Definitely. And I gotta say, I forgot this earlier, and it was also during the part where we kinda got cut off, but anyway, when I was about to say that even in spite of being rushed, the Pokemon Sword and Shield were still very great. We don't see rushed games be great very often, let alone good. That's a pretty cool achievement. Because
Spyro 2 just comes to mind when that happens.
Yep. But
here's what the best part was when it comes to Spyro 3. Now, Spyro 3 is pretty much complete. Even in the original first release, it was complete except for one thing. This is the part they had to rush because they wanted the game to release in the year 2000, which was the Year of the Dragon, hence the name Spyro 3 Year of the Dragon. Get the idea there? So anyways, the soundtrack, so some tracks were actually repeated. Now this would differentiate on one track depending on where you lived. If you're in North America, the final battle would be playing the freaking Sunrise Springs Homeworld theme, which I don't think works at all because it's not a battle theme and it's just too cheerful for an end-of-world battle, basically. It's do or die, not freaking, oh, let's have some tea, sorceress. Yes, let's have some tea. Whereas with Britain, they do this differently and in a better way. They instead reuse the second boss battle theme, which is of Spike.
alright,
I'm not looking
finally done
looking
it.
forward to his redesign.
Time to see what everyone has to say.
I don't think we could ever thank you enough, Spyro. I suppose you have to go now?
Yeah, I'd better. They'll be missing me in the Dragon Worlds, and I've still got a vacation to take. I need it more than ever now.
Before you go, I think that Moneybags has something he wants to give you.
I most certainly do not.
Hunter?
Ooh! Did he
Spyro,
seriously
Moneybags
just
is
do
very
that?
Sorry that he made you pay
Yep,
so
he
much on your
kicked
way
his
through
butt.
Avalar. We want you to keep
Oh
the
my
gems as a reward
God.
for helping us.
Wow.
And we're actually getting the treasure
Sparks,
back.
Can you grab them?
I cannot believe this.
Let me just type
Oh, and by the way, if you remember with Spyro 1, there was always a bonus at the end after the final boss. So, Spyro 2 is no exception. We have a bonus.
I'm afraid we
Yep.
can't, Spyro.
And I
Ripto
can
may
take
be gone, but he left
satisfaction
a lot
in
of
knowing
damage during his
that
short stay.
Moneybags
He'll be cleaning up for weeks.
it will be
Just remember, though,
broke.
that you can always get back to Avalar from Dragon Shores.
After
if you
what-
want.
Well, okay. Come on,
After
Sparks.
all the
We got a lot
pain
of
he
vacation
put
to
me
catch up
through,
on.
forcing me to pay for even the most mundane things like elevators, bridges.
And don't forget the pain he put himself through.
Ah, yeah. If Ripto were here, I'd give him a piece of my mind. In fact, I'd give him a lot more than that. I was a champion bantamweight boxer at university, and I still know a few moves. Take that, and that. Oh!
Boom!
Ah! Why you?
Oh, and don't forget, he got kicked out of the castle many goddamn times.
2 to be exact. First time in the summer forest, and the second time where he actually helped the bad guy. Yeah, that makes his little beat up moment from Hunter all the more satisfying. And all it took.
Trust me, you'll get an even more satisfying moment with Spyro 3.
Oh yeah. So, what do I think of Spyro 2 as a whole? Well, I enjoyed it when I briefly played it at a friend's house, and I still enjoy it even now. Now, the beautiful HD graphics, the real instruments and the music, the missions, the diversity of worlds we go to. It's just so pleasing on the eye, and it makes me wish I got to see it in its original pixelated state. I know that's weird to say coming from someone who grew up with stuff like GameCube, PS2, but remember, my dad had a Super NES, and me and my older brother used to play that a lot. When we're not duking it out in Crash Nitro Kart, we're bonking heads of Goombas or something.
Crash Nitro Kart. That was actually the first Crash Bandicoot game I played. Reignited Cortex being the second, and those were the only two at the time until recent times when I bought the Insane Trilogy as well as Nitro Kart. Nitro Fueled. But yeah, Nitro Kart was probably the first Crash game I finished legitly, and that was before Reignited Cortex, of course. Reignited Cortex finished, but I did not finish it legitly because, well, I wasn't gonna go back to the submarine level, so I just did the bonus levels, and then I said F it to all the other levels, and just input a cheat code, and fought Crunch the second time, and did the final cutscene to close the story, which explains how the heck he joins our team, basically. Which is kind of funny seeing him being grouped up with the baddies and like, oh crap, I'm in trouble, when it comes to the baddies roster into insanity, of course. Also, when did he grow a mohawk for that scene, anyways?
Yeah. And
also, he's got like a little birthday cake with 1 year old on it, basically, like a single candle. I think that's kind of funny, but also kind of true, technically. Because if you remember in Reignited Cortex, this is an interesting concept, just not well executed, except for the cutscenes, even though the first cutscene's like nearly 10 minutes, so it's a lot longer, and a lot more teeth on the Cortex, and his eyebrows are like eagle wings. Not even shit. Okay, that's what they look like, and so Chris makes a joke about it. But anyways, basically, it's an actually interesting concept. If you remember in the first game, in the beginning cutscene, as Crash Bandicoot, you're an experiment at Cortex, but you are a failed experiment, of course. Now, Reignited Cortex shows the Bandicoot you were supposed to become, and so it's interesting fighting the Bandicoot you were supposed to be. And it's kind of interesting to have him join our team in the end, of course. I hate to spoil it, but I'm saving you guys trouble.
And
now,
as for the
with
characters,
Crash Nitro Kart, though, it's not only the first game I beat legitly, especially with relics and C&K tokens, but I did it twice legitly because I wanted to do both campaigns, Cortex and Bandicoot. I did Bandicoot first, of course, and then Cortex. But I think I prefer the Bandicoot side. It's a lot more wholesome, if you will. It's a lot more nice. It's nice and friendly, and it's goofy at times. Whereas with Cortex's side, it's a bit rude. Seriously.
I still love this painting where Spyro is just doing that classic paint while someone sleeps prank.
Oh god, that's classic. But anyways, now if you're wondering what relics I got with Nitro Kart, all platinum twice.
Yeah, it's
I
just
ruined
like
my
me.
sanity doing that. But I was not gonna ruin my sanity even worse with Reignited Cortex, because I am not gonna spend days on days on those freaking submarine levels. So F it, cheat code on Reignited Cortex. There you go.
So, yeah, it may be disappointing for a lot of people to see the credit sequence get downgraded, but I still maintain that these concept arcs look great.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying Wrath of Cortex is bad. Story-wise, it's great. But gameplay-wise, it's meh. It's also trying to beat Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped on steroids. Yeah, and it tries too hard a lot of the time. It tries too effing hard. It improves on some areas, like the jetpacking stuff is more controllable, but then it completely fails on others. For example, do I need to mention the monkey bars? Oh my god, what did they do to the monkey bar sequence? Seriously, it's so dang slow, and it's near impossible to get through relic races like that. Basically. And even worse, your Aku invincibility power-up does not make it go faster. And so you're still at the same speed, and before you're even 5 steps into the freaking monkey bars, your Aku invincibility disappears. Yeah, so much for that.
So
The music is also great. God dang, the music! Just look at the soundtrack and make love to it, basically. That's how good it is.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
So...
Like, I can't stress it enough. The soundtrack of Wrath of Cortex is great. The gameplay, and in some places. Like, seriously. Now, of course, they do some... Now, when it comes to the flight levels, like in Crash 3, Wrath of Cortex does some of them good, and the first 2, you're just gonna freaking hate to death. So slow, and even worse, the second one is even worse.
Hey, Spyro's drinking a smoothie and playing some Pokemon Go in this artwork.
Well, who knows what he's playing technically, but hey, we'll just let it say Pokemon Go just for goofy fun.
Yeah, and besides, there really aren't... The game doesn't really specify that there can be any dragon-based apps in the Dragon World, so hey, it could be like a multiverse.
It's basically like how Disney would make these goofy characters like Genie or the Gargoyles in Hunchback of Notre Dame. Sue me, I like Hunchback of Notre Dame, and I thought the Gargoyles were funny. Sue me and hate me, I don't give a crap. I like them, don't make me hate them, okay? Anyways, on with the comment I was making. They usually had some modern day stuff, even though they took place years and years in the past before any of that kind of stuff happened. Like the Gargoyles playing poker, for example, in the one shot, or being a barber shop in another shot, and then Gina playing or doing some other modern stuff, you know, and making modern references even.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Like, that was a common thing with old Disney films. Mushu come to mind. Should I say any more Disney characters that do that?
That would probably take us way farther than the time we're allowed to speak right now, and we're already kind of pushing it as is. So...
Heck, even Hercules pulled this off without even having those sidekick characters. He did it on his own, basically. He had merchandise in his own film. Herculade, Herc sneaker, sandal things, Herc action figures with puffing up X when you pull the arms down. And so we get to make it flex. He had all kinds of Herc merch. Trust me.
Yep. So anyway, Ripto has been defeated.
Yeah, it's not the first time Disney put modern stuff in the old-timey stories just for the kids. So it wouldn't hurt to give Spyro that idea too. It would make sense in his character.
Yep. So now that Ripto has been defeated, we will now go to the place that has been teasing us for so long.
Vacation time!
Hey, is that a Nork?
Holy crap! It's one of the Norks from Spyro 1, and it's one of the first kinds of Norks you meet too. Specifically from, what's it called? Dark Hollow? Yeah, Dark Hollow.
Yeah, but anyway, we will be doing a little bonus video covering Dragon Shores and even the concept art for Spyro 2 Ripto's Reignited Rage. So, after a long, grueling battle, who's ready for some fun?
But don't everybody stand there at once.